mit der Akzeptanz der vier Grundfreiheiten und dazu gehört auch die Freizügigkeit der Person. Brexit means Brexit.
Hello and welcome back to the Brexitometer. I'm Angelos and I'm joining you from my new office in King's College London. It's been a while since we last talked to each other about Brexit and the process of the UK leaving the EU. So today let's just do some small catching up with regards to where we are right now, what happened over the last 2 months that we haven't seen each other, and also let's try to assess where we're moving now and what the developments will be in the immediate future. First of all, what has happened since the last time we saw each other? 3 key developments have taken place. First of all, there has been a shift and a very painful discussion inside the Conservative cabinet here in London about how the Brexit process should be managed. One key development that took place in the summer is that the so-called soft pragmatic side of the debate has won out, and now there is quite a strong understanding in London that there will have to be a transition period once the UK leaves the EU to basically smooth out the process of the complete separation between the UK and the EU. This has been a victory for the softer side of the Conservative Party with regards to Brexit, chiefly the Chancellor, the Minister of Finance, Philip Hammond, who was the leader of this side of the debate. He basically said that the UK has to take it easy on its way out and there is a need for a transition period. The second key development was Theresa May's speech in Florence in September, where she basically tried to break the deadlock of the negotiations that are taking place between Michel Barnier and David Davis. And what Theresa May tried to do was to basically provide a political impetus to the discussion by saying, let's take a fresh look, let's try to be imaginative, let's try to move forward. And she basically signaled her willingness as well to be very constructive in the debate. The problem there is that while Theresa May tried to give in to show good face with regards to the negotiations, she tried to show that she wants to be constructive and she wants to be cooperative. The essence of her speech and the essence of the British position remains that the UK wants a new type of deal, basically something that is a glorified version of the pick and choose strategy. And the EU does not do pick and choose. It still thinks that the UK cannot have all the benefits of a close relationship with the EU without any of the costs associated with it. The third development has been the Conservative Party conference last week, which was an absolute disaster for Theresa May, and that completely took away all the positive vibe and all the impetus that she created with her Florence speech. Basically right now Theresa May is one of the weakest prime ministers that the UK has ever had. But the interesting thing is that nobody will remove her because nobody in the Conservative Party is strong enough or would be stronger than what she currently is were they to take over from her. What that means for the EU is that they are negotiating with a fundamentally weak government, and weak governments do not make for good negotiating partners. So, what does this all mean about where we are now and how are we going to move forward? First of all, it's October, and that means that the clock is ticking for the meeting of the EU leaders at the end of this month, at the end of October, to discuss about whether sufficient progress, as the term has it, has been made in the ongoing negotiations between Michel Barnier and David Davis, in order to recommend for a broader discussion to be opened between the UK and the EU regarding the future relationship of the UK with the EU. Now remember, the UK desperately wants for sufficient progress to be called in that European Council, because the UK desperately wants to move beyond the really trivial and unpleasant things of discussing the terms of the divorce, money, the Irish question, the rights of European citizens living in the UK, and discussing about trade and market access and all the things where the UK really hopes to gain something from these negotiations with the EU. The EU approach is that we can only discuss future relationship once the divorce is settled. And right now, the voices coming from Brussels and from European capitals show that probably it will be very difficult for the EU to say that sufficient progress has been made. As President of the Commission Jacques-Claude Juncker said, it will be a miracle for sufficient progress to have been to be declared at the Council. The problem is that should this thing happen, that puts Theresa May in an extremely difficult position, and it makes her position even more difficult inside the British political system. It will basically mean that her Florence initiative has completely gone to waste, because the European leaders will not have responded to her political call to discuss the broader relationship between the UK and the EU. If there is no sufficient progress on the exit discussions, that also puts David Davis, the chief negotiator, in a very difficult position, because then perhaps also his own capacity to lead the negotiations will be put in doubt. There's also another interesting dimension of the future decision that the EU leaders will make in the Council at the end of October. And that is that while on the one hand the UK went through a painful debate over the summer and in September to finally accept the need of a transition, and while it was very difficult to bring hard Eurosceptics of the Conservative Party on board for the need of a transition exiting the EU, if the actual divorce negotiations seem to be going nowhere, this might strengthen the hand of the hard Eurosceptics in the cabinet, who actually say we have to have a clean break from the EU, this thing is leading nowhere. So EU leaders have to be careful as well. While of course it is important to stick to your own negotiation position with regards to the UK, perhaps they also should be careful not to strengthen too much the hand of hard Eurosceptics inside the cabinet. Because if they get the upper hand, then many of the things that the EU also needs from the UK, contributions to the budget, a peaceful solution to Ireland, securing the rights of nationals in the UK, they might actually be put in jeopardy as well. So that was the first Brexitometer of the winter season. Winter's coming, perhaps for Brexit as well. Don't forget, you can always send me your questions. You can actually send me your questions by posting right underneath this video with your questions and your reactions about Brexit and where this thing is going. Of course, as always, you can also send me your questions using the hashtag Brexitometer on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Looking forward to catching up again with you as the UK is slowly moving beyond and outside the EU in a process that is definitely going to be very interesting politically.
Mit der Akzeptanz der vier Grundfreiheiten und dazu gehört auch die Freizügigkeit der Person. Brexit means Brexit.